believes it's important that we should try to impart to the people of Harlow its history and to make people aware of important events and important connections that it has over the years. Harlow itself is a distinguished town, and we have erected throughout the town now from the Civic Society a number of plaques to people commemorating them and adding to our history. Now, in fact, Sir Winston Churchill was a world statesman, twice Prime Minister of Britain, and British leader backed by all the political parties in the epic struggle of the Second World War, in which we were in the business of defeating the evils of Nazism.
And became Prime Minister in 1940. His steadfast refusal to consider defeat, surrender, or a compromised peace helped inspire British resistance, especially during the early days of the war. And I well remember my granddad talking about Churchill's speeches on the radio and how the whole family would gather round to listen to him during that time. So he's particularly noted for his broadcasts and his radio speeches. He led Britain as Prime Minister until victory over the Nazis had been secured. He's widely regarded as being among the most influential people in British history. As Stan has said, he came here to the Victoria Hall to speak to the people of Harlow. I only wish I'd been young enough to be here to witness that at the time. And it's very fitting that we are here to honour our greatest statesman with this plaque today. It's a very proud moment for Harlow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To serve the community, which it has done for its 120-year history in many ways, but significantly during both World Wars. It was a centre of convalescence during and after the First World War. And it was a wartime canteen and dance hall during the Second World War. We are incredibly honoured that this plaque not only puts Victoria Hall on the map, but associates us with such a great figure as Winston Churchill. He was a great lover and supporter of the arts. There was a quote which I saw recently where during the war, one of his colleagues said, "Should we cut funding to the arts?" And his reply was, "In that case, well, what are we fighting for?"
We're rightly recognising the historical contribution that great figures have made to our community. You've always been a better historian than I am, Stan. And in fact, I was remembering this morning that when I first became a government minister and my office intemperately put out a press release claiming I was the first Harlow MP to become a government minister, you said to me Winston Churchill might have had something to say about that. And it's therefore a real pleasure to be here for this civic unveiling. I also noted, Robert, that in his 1924 campaign to be elected as the Member of Parliament for the Epping Forest constituency, Churchill gave all those who worked with him on the campaign trail a commemorative medal. Now, I don't know if you've done that for your campaign team. I certainly didn't, and I feel somewhat remiss. Churchill also had some very strong progressive sides to his character. His government indeed oversaw the expansion of the post-war new towns, including Harlow, and as a Liberal Home Secretary with Lloyd George, he was there at the creation of the welfare state. But I think more than anything, it's his longevity in public life that served him well. And it's not often I quote Enoch Powell, but I read something yesterday that brings that home. Powell said in 1988 that the phenomenon of Winston Churchill would have been impossible, whatever his other qualities, without the exceptional length of his public life. From the Battle of Omdurman to Britain's acquisition of the hydrogen bomb was a stretch of 57 years, a period which both saw the culmination and dissolution of the British Empire, the transformation of British society and politics by the extension of the franchise to all adults, and a technological transformation of life in Britain at least as extensive as the first industrial revolution. He did make an enormous contribution to this community and to our society and country, and I think it's right that we recognise that.
Two reasons. First of all, because Churchill was a childhood hero of mine, and I used to read anything and everything I possibly could about him, but second of all, because he was the Member of Parliament for Harlow and Epping. And one of the first things that I did when I got elected was to write to the Victoria Hall Theatre saying, could we not recognise Winston Churchill in the way that he should be recognised for his contribution to Harlow. And can I thank you, Stan, for living up to your promise. You said you would do it, and it is a great moment in our town today, and I'm genuinely proud to be here with two other former MPs because we're carrying on that Churchill tradition. And I welcome all the councillors and other representatives and Linda, the chair of the council, who are here. And a special thanks to the Victoria Hall Theatre. There was a huge battle in actually you owning this theatre, but it's a wonderful place to come, and to have Churchill's plaque here is all the more special. Now, when I first got selected for Harlow as the parliamentary candidate, it was November 1999, and funnily enough, the second round of the interviews was in the Women's Institute. Simon Carter and Tony Hall will remember this very well. And there was a man in the room, and his name was David Thomas, the author of this book, Churchill, the Member for Woodford. Now, he sadly passed away. But he lived in Shearing, and he was very involved in the Conservative Party, and he was a great man. And he asked me, he said, "Oh, Robert, you seem to be a nice chap, but have you got any fire in your belly?" Now, I tried to prove to him that I did, but a few years later he invited me to his home in Shearing, and he said to me, "Robert, yes, you do have fire in your body," and he gave me a copy of this book, Churchill, the Member for Woodford, and this accounts for his life in the constituency of Harlow and Epping and later Woodford. And as has been said, he was the MP for Harlow and Epping between 1924 and 1945. Now, Bill talked about Winston Churchill and the United States of Europe. I might just add that he actually said he believed in the United States of Europe, providing Britain was at the head of it and running it. But Bill also said that he was progressive, and I would say it in a different way. I would say he was a true compassionate conservative, because in this very hall, and it is documented in a speech in 1923 before he was elected, he urged the restoration of the penny post and also pensions for widows with children, and that was a major part of his election address at the time. Now, as you all know, Churchill was very anti-appeasement, and this didn't fall in well with the leadership of the time. And what they tried to do was deselect him. And what is interesting is that, according to this book, he went all over the constituency of Epping, but the one place he went to, where the crowds met him with cheers, who were clearly hardcore anti-appeasement, who were supportive of Churchill, was not Nazing, was not Roydon, was not Epping, but was genuinely Harlow. And that is something that we should all be very, very proud about. But to be fair to the members of the Epping Conservative Association, in 1938, the chief whip at the time tried to get Churchill deselected, and there was a special vote amongst the members, and there were 100 members who voted for Churchill to stay on as the Epping and Harlow MP. Now, if they had done that, if they had voted opposite and done what the leadership of the party had asked them to do, Churchill would have been deselected in essence and would not have been able to stand, and most probably would never ever have been Prime Minister. So to 100 Epping and Harlow Conservatives, we should all say thank you. One final thing I want to say is, which was in Churchill's election address in 1923, and I think that whatever one's political persuasion here today, I don't think there would be a person who would disagree with it. And I would like us, whenever we walk past and look at this plaque, to think of this quotation. Mr. Churchill said, "Electors of Essex, you can place in power a national government vowed to a progressive and peaceful policy and animated by a sincere desire to preserve the greatness of Britain and guard the freedom and happiness of our hearts and home." Thank you. 1, 2, 3.